Welcome to Psychologist Talks. On today's episode, I want to talk about a leadership quality that I think is a pretty important tell for when you're dealing with an unhealthy leader or a very self-involved, sort of self-promoting leader. It can be subtle in some respects. Subtle might not be the right word. In many ways, it doesn't come up initially unless conflict is high. This is going to be a very brief episode, let me note as well. But just cutting right to it, it's what I call controlling the narrative, quote unquote, controlling the narrative. And usually this does not come up again until conflict comes up, because when there's no conflict, typically the narrative is pretty easy to go along with. And what I mean by narrative is like, what's the story so far? The organization, the team, whatever it might be, right? Everything's going well. People seem to reflect positively on us or the team or whatever it might be. We're working well together. The product is going well. There are no complaints, right? Typically the narrative is not threatened because everything is going well. Now, what's sneaky, what's happening beneath the surface is what's going well for you might be, well, we're working effectively as a team. Again, the product is going well. The people are satisfied, whatever it might be. But to the person who is going to have the controlling the narrative issue, it's like, I am okay. Am I liked? Do people reflect positively on me? Am I retaining my power and my privilege? And again, when everything's going well, you don't see that part. When conflict occurs, what happens, what is confronted with the healthier person, it's like, oh no, we need to find a resolution. The product is not going well. The people are not happy. We need to figure out how to solve this problem. For the person who's more concerned about controlling the narrative, what is going on for them is, I am now threatened. My sense of self, my sense of safety, my esteem, my privilege is now compromised. The very sneaky ones, I know I said sneaky in different contexts here, but the sneaky ones will try to balance both, right? They will be like, well, we want the people to be happy. But at the end of the day, what you will begin to feel is that the narrative is more important than those things. And especially if the conflict is between you and that person, then the narrative becomes more important than understanding you. The narrative becomes more important than solving, resolving, or even just moving through the conflict. The narrative is more important than seeing things from your point of view. The narrative is about them being right and righteous. Now, what this can look like is you will hear through the grapevine that they will go to people and be checking on things and be like, what are you hearing? What's going on there? What do you know about this situation? I don't need details, right? But it'd be really helpful if you told me specifically what was said, right? And they're hunting, right? And it can sound like, well, they just want the facts. No. They're hunting so they can empower themselves with information so they know how to defend themselves. Humble leaders, people who are open and receptive, are not so preoccupied with that because they trust the relationships that they have created and say, well, we can dialogue about that, right? I don't need to control anything. I know dialogue needs to happen. I'm going to insert myself and create energy for that. But I don't need to scramble to fact find and create this puzzle that ultimately is about me preserving myself. Am I going to be okay in all of this? And when these types of leaders show up, you should be very careful and you should step back from the relationship. I'm not saying you have to eliminate the relationship. I'm not saying just assume it's all ill intent. Some of this sort of what I call latent narcissism. Remember, narcissism is inside all of us. I'm not talking diagnostically, although it could be. But this latent narcissism is not always conscious, right? It's not always intentional. Again, it's not always malicious. So you don't have to eradicate the relationship. However, in the very least, I would recommend stepping back and saying, this is a red flag. And it would be dangerous for me to proceed assuming that this is going to be okay and assuming this is a one-off. And essentially, you then need to confront that relationship and see how the person is willing to actually play with you. Was it just kind of an anxiety, anxious reaction that they can move through? Or do they kind of double down on this? And when there is a doubling down, whether it's your peer, like you're in a peer leadership position or it's a leader above you, pause, right? You need to step back, gain perspective. If there's other trusted people around you, hey, what are you seeing anything? Like, am I crazy here? Do I need to be more careful around this? And then figure out what you want to do. Is it going to be a firm, continuous boundary? Or is there a way that you can reapproach and confront, and again, see if they're amenable to change or amenable to, and open to change if a little bit more time has passed? I will say, if this is a repeated cycle, even after you confront, even after you go, what is going on? I'm looking for laterality. I'm looking for communication. They keep defaulting to it's about them and their narrative. Beware. Beware. So again, I know that's generally unspecific. It's not a lot of detail, but I wanted to keep this short in case it's helpful for people who, are trying to work through relationships with their leaders or fellow leaders. Sometimes it's very obvious, right? It's very in your face, and you can line up 10 people. 9 of them are like, yeah, they're not terribly safe or an effective leader. But sometimes it's in the subtler signs. Sometimes the proof is in the pudding. And the controlling of the narrative, to me, is one of the most dangerous kind of lurking components of a leader that looks fine when everything's okay, but will revert to more primitive defenses and self-preservation above all else when things maybe hit the fan. So hopefully of interest to at least some folks. As always, I thank you for listening and or watching, and stay curious.